Hello and welcome to Lovely English Stories. Thank you for stopping by. This story is written for upper intermediate to advanced English learners. Ready? Let's get started. B2 C1 English Story. The Middle Ages. The Middle Ages lasted around 1,000 years from the end of the Roman Empire in AD 476 up until 1485. After the Norman conquest, which we have talked about in a previous story, the country was in a state of almost constant war. Over the years, the various English kings fought with the Scottish, Welsh and Irish noblemen. They wanted to try and control their land. In Wales, the English were able to establish their rule. It took until the middle of the 15th century for the Welsh rebellions to be defeated. It was then that English laws and the English language were introduced to Wales. The English kings were not so successful when it came to Scotland. In 1314, at the Battle of Bannockburn, the Scottish, led by Robert the Bruce, defeated the English. Scotland remained unconquered by the English. At the beginning of the Middle Ages, Ireland was an independent country. Some English people went to Ireland as troops to help the Irish king. Some of them decided to stay and formed their own settlements. By 1200, the English ruled an area around Dublin, which was known as the Pale. During this time, there weren't just wars in England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, but also abroad. There was a famous war called the 100 Years' War, which actually lasted 116 years, in which English kings fought with France. One of the most famous battles was the Battle of Agincourt, which took place in 1415. The French outnumbered King Henry V's English army, but they defeated their army. By the 1450s, most of the English had left France. Before this, an incredibly infectious disease swept through Europe. In 1348, a disease called the Black Death came to Britain. 1/3 of the population in England and similar numbers in Wales and Scotland died after suffering from the disease. There were two types of the Black Death, otherwise known as the plague, bubonic and pneumonic. Bubonic makes the glands in the neck, armpits and groin swell and ooze pus and blood. If patients caught the pneumonic plague, then their lungs would become infected and they would cough up blood. Following this time, the smaller population meant that there were labour shortages and peasants began to demand higher salaries. This was when new social classes began to appear. People started to leave the countryside to live in towns, and many people became wealthier, which led to the development of the middle class. England became an important trading nation, meaning that people came from abroad to trade and work in the country. One of England's most important exports was wool. Many of the people who came to Britain had unique skills, such as engineers from Germany, canal builders from the Netherlands, and weavers from France. During the Middle Ages, a national culture and identity started to develop in Britain. The Norman French and Anglo-Saxon languages began to combine to become one English language. In England, by 1400, many official documents were written in English, and this new combined language became the favourite of the royal court and parliament. In Scotland, many people spoke Gaelic, and the Scots language began to develop. Now, let's go through some of the vocabulary. Rebellion. Rebellion. Rebellion is violent action organised by a group of people who are trying to change the political system in their country. Infectious. Infectious. If something is infectious, it quickly spreads or influences others. Gland or glands. An organ of the body that produces liquid chemicals that have various purposes. Ooze. To ooze. If a thick liquid oozes from something, or if something oozes a liquid, a small amount of it flows out slowly. Shortage. Shortage. If there is a shortage of something, it means there isn't enough of it. Peasant. Peasant. This is quite an old-fashioned word, and it's used to describe someone who is poor and usually works on the land. Weaver. Weaver. A weaver is a person whose job is weaving cloth and other materials. Settlement. Settlement. A settlement is a place where people come to live, or the process of settling in such a place. Empire. Empire. An empire is a group of countries ruled by a single person, government, or country. Outnumber. To outnumber. To outnumber is to be greater in number than someone or something. Plague. The plague. A plague is a serious disease that kills many people. Wealthy. Wealthy. A wealthy person, organisation, or country is one that has a large amount of money and many other valuable things. We hope you enjoyed this lovely English story and the vocabulary explanations. Thank you for stopping by. Get productive and check out our language learning productivity packs on Etsy. Use code YouTube10 for 10% off. And don't forget to like, subscribe and share. See you soon!